Today we are going to be talking about my personal top 5 most nostalgic items in Old School RuneScape. Really, it would be RuneScape altogether. I believe I started playing in roughly 2006, and a lot of these items that I'm going to mention are simply things that have meaning to me. They aren't necessarily classic RuneScape items, but they are things that when I see, they bring up a lot of emotion and remind me of my early days in RuneScape. Alright, starting off with a very strange one. I have the cooked umli wrap. I think a lot of people have no idea what this item is. I certainly did not. And the reason it's on this list is because when I was a noob, I was given a cooked umli wrap, possibly to heal myself or for whatever reason, in case I need it in the future. And I had no idea what it was. I never saw another one in RuneScape. I didn't know where it came from. I knew nothing about it. And I did what everyone would do. I assumed it was special and incredibly rare. So I held on to it all the time that my account existed. I bought this recently just to have in my bank as a reminder, because it's something that I just saw that icon sitting in my bank for all of eternity, and I just don't feel quite right without having it chilling in my bank. Alright, the next one is the Mudskipper Hat and Flippers. I remember I saw someone with flippers and I thought, oh my god, greatest fashionscape ever. And I knew I had to have them. Additionally, I thought the same thing with a Mudskipper hat. I specifically remember someone they had ghostly robes, they had the bone sack, the Mudskipper hat, and like a Carol's crossbow, and they just looked really weird, but I absolutely loved the way it looked, and I needed to know how to get them. So, I figured it out. I went and killed my first mogres until I got my flippers and my Mudskipper hat so long ago. But to this day, it's very rare that I will get an account where I don't go and grab myself a pair of flippers and Mudskipper hat, because they are probably one of the most nostalgic and important items in the game to me. I even went so far as to make a Mogre's Guide. If you would like, go ahead and check it out, so everyone can enjoy flippers and Mudskipper hats with me. Oh look. I've told this story a couple times, but when I was young and a noob, one of my first RuneScape goals was to get a Mithril Battle Axe. This was probably in a time before I even left Lumbridge, and before I probably even knew how to trade other players, before I ever picked up a scimitar, and so the best weapon available to me was, of course, the Mithril Battle Axe. I remember I killed goblins for so long just to get that money. I specifically remember dying several times and then literally crying. So frustrated because I didn't understand how to use food. But eventually I got my coins back and it was time to invoke war on the goblins. And so shortly after I got my revenge, I believe this was the first time I trained any skill. Of course, like the worst noob in all of history, I trained purely attack, not a single strength level. So at the time when I got the Mithril Battle Axe and I soon to attack my first goblin, it was the first time I ever hit higher than a 1. It was absolutely incredible. It changed my entire life, and it is probably one of the most memorable weapons in RuneScape for me. Next, this is really a clump of items, which includes the Mystic Robes, Black D'hide, and of course, the Magic Shortbow. The Magic Shortbow was the choice of pretty much all PKers back in the day, or at least was commonly used. And there was one PKer in specific whom I watched quite a lot, who was known as Wildy Owns 1, or Wildy Pones 1. He ended up being kind of a scumbag, and I think he was involved in something weird, but his aesthetic usually included a Torag's helm, magic shortbow, and mystic. And to me, it looks very good, and there's just something about the combination of all of it that really just attracts me. And to this day, Mystic is probably still one of my favorite looking robe sets. I think combined with the magic shortbow, it's about the coolest looking armor ever. And I remember it was pretty much one of my largest big financial goals was to get a set of Mystic. Next on my list is going to be the DDS. It was always confusing why it was called the DDS, because P++ apparently meant super poison, a powerful dagger. This was an incredibly powerful weapon for its time, and I remember starting out they were about 50k, and then they dropped down to about 30k. They were sort of they were definitely the go-to spec weapon, just for that sweet meow. I mean, who doesn't love that? It's still one of my favorite specs in the game. Sometimes you can hit insanely high, some PKers still utilize the DDS, and it is one of my favorite weapons. And it's just so cool looking. It was completely different than all the daggers, because all the daggers would be stabbed, and they would be aimed forward. And this one, of course, you held backwards. And I remember hitting a 15-15 was a pretty big deal at some point. It is very nostalgic to most RuneScape players, and it is really a staple weapon in Old School RuneScape, if I may say so myself. Completing Lost City was incredibly scary because you had to fight a level 100-something, and to a noob like me, that sounded insanely intimidating. Eventually we got it, we got the DDS, and then we rocked the Dragon Longsword for a very long time. And the last item on my list is going to be full Lunar. This is an armor that you do not really see in-game anymore, as there are much better replacements. For a while it was the highest on the list under the magic robes, having the highest requirements, and having to do lunar diplomacy, which was yet another intimidating quest for a noob. And I simply think the robes look amazing. I still want to use them for something. Obviously the staff is used since it is a replacement for the Drayman staff, and provides a great replacement there, so it is utilized. The whole lunar set, I think, is sadly a little forgotten, and I really like it. If anything gives me nostalgia, Lunar is definitely among the list. Well, times have changed in RuneScape quite a bit, and a lot of the items that we see in-game are a little different. Better things have come and taken their place, which is awesome. And of course, some of these items are a little different for me and have a little more meaning to me, just because they were random things that really stuck with me for a long time, that give me the feels. I just can't help remembering them, and I think it's really ultimately why a lot of us play this game. Although we are a little out of touch with a lot of the things that used to be huge parts of the game to us, we still remember them, and the symbolism of them is still very important, and I think it's important not to forget about that, and occasionally relish in it. And thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment, or subscribe, and thank you for watching.